Well, it's a busy day for the president. Cyril Ramaphosa is now in Stellenbosch, where he's talking to farm owners, agri-vescop, business leaders, as well as academics. They're discussing a host of issues, including land reform, the future of agriculture, as well as government support. And we've just heard that the president also cited the need for cabinet ministers to sign performance agreements. Obviously, this is looking at how each department performs in a bid to attract and also to grow investor confidence in the country. Let's have a listen.
And then when we go along with you and help you open all those markets. So I look forward to that. Now, Chris Kutsier says, we like you as farmers. I'm glad. I'm a farmer as well. But what can we do to secure our future? What we can do to secure the future of farming is just being able to do what I've been saying throughout the country. Let's work together. Let us together grow South Africa. Farmers should never see themselves as an island, as standing away and apart from everything else that's happening in the country. We've got to be part of the solution. We've got to be part of the change. We've got to be working together. But that also means that we must embrace the change. This is precisely what Ibrahim Rasool was saying. It basically means that we must create a balance. There is great success that many of you have achieved as farmers. And South African farmers are really good, they are professional, they run really good businesses, and many of those are family businesses. On the other side, we've had a very sad history, a terrible history, particularly on land issues. And I always say that, land was the original sin that was committed the very first day that Jan van Riebeeck set his foot here. Now, obviously, we don't want to dwell on the past. We want to look forward. And this is what Bayers has been saying over and over again, that let us look forward. The past is there to inform us what not to do ever again. And the past is about how do we correct the things that happened in the past. And colleagues, the Constitution of our country is the best document that we need to look at, because it talks about the past. It also talks about the future. The future is a great future if we all work together. We need to recognize the injustices that happened in the past and be convinced that, yes, there were horrible injustices, but we cannot remain stuck in one place. We need to look forward. And looking forward means that we've all got to work together to find the solutions. And the solutions are not about being isolationists or exclusionists, saying that, no, I'm going to hide my head in the sand like an ostrich. It basically means saying, what is it that we can do collectively, work together, and find solutions? Land reform is one of those. The future that we can have as a nation is a bright future if we all commit to saying, here's a problem, how can we do it? Now, individual farmers, and Ibrahim started touching on this, individual farmers have found a way of saying, we are going to solve this problem. We'll come up with our own projects, our own processes that are going to address that horrible past, of including our own workers into a brighter future as we move ahead. I have a good friend, a farmer called Carstens, whom you may know. I thought he would be here today. He's not here. He farms grapes on the Orange River. And each time I try to go there, I converse with him. And he's come up with a lot of projects to empower his female workers. He's come up with a number of projects to empower his own workers. And he says, through this, I am securing a future not so much for myself, but I'm securing a future for everyone, including my own children and grandchildren. And he is at peace with a number of initiatives that he has embarked upon, initiatives that he says have actually led him in a way where his business is now thriving, much more than it would have thrived in the past. And I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs, but there are a number of projects that we can all embark on along the land reform process. And it starts with people being convinced that this is a common problem that we must solve. And I'm saying to all of us as South African farmers, let us look at the land reform process in a positive way, rather than look at it in a negative way. Let us say, what is it that we can do as farmers in South Africa to address this problem? Now, clearly, the process is ongoing in Parliament, and it will lead to a particular end. But at the same time, we need to look at the practical reality of everything and say, how do we do it? Now, there's going to be an expropriation bill that is going to be piloted through Parliament. And that bill is quite progressive. It's a progressive bill that looks at how can we enhance land reform in our country. And we're going to be looking at land that is owned by the state, land that is owned by state-owned enterprises, land that is not being used, land that was sometimes illegally acquired, and land that is going to be addressed in terms of our constitution, where we say the public interest is to look after the interests of everyone, and where people are going to be able to sit down and come up with their own proposals on what's best can be done. Now, I can assure you, and I've been saying this over and over, the land reform process is something that we should never fear. It is going to be done in accordance with the rule of law. It is going to be done in accordance with our constitution. It's not going to be land grabs, where you grab land outside the parameters of our laws. It is going to be done in a way where we find a balanced medium, where everyone in our country feels that, yes, this constitution is working for us. Because in the end, the constitution endears us to ensure that there is security of tenure for everyone. Everyone must have a sense that this is a constitution that works for them. And it should be so between landless people as well as landowners. We should have that very good balance. Right now here in the Western Cape, particularly, we're facing another real serious challenge. A challenge of the evictions on farms, where workers are just evicted on farms. And some of the stories that I heard when I went to Vredendal are really sad stories of people who've worked on farms for 25 years and more, and one day they're just moved and kicked out of the farm, which evokes the memory of Sol Plaatje. Sol Plaatje was one of those people who was the founders of the ANC. In 1912, he wrote a book about how this land reform process was unfolding through the 1913 Land Act, where he writes a story of a family that was evicted from a farm, and where, as they were being driven out in the middle of the night, they were on their cart with their young child. The child dies on their journey. And as the child dies on their journey, the parents have to bury the child by the side of the road. Having lived on a farm where they were born for many years, they bury the child on the side of the road. And Sol Plaatje then writes that this is a process through which we are now treated as pariahs in the land of our birth. And that story has remained very, very cogent and relevant to this day. And I'm saying to farm owners, that in the end, any farm owner has got a much stronger position than a farm worker. And the needs in this day and time to deal with people with a better deal of humanity and deal with them knowing that we are dealing with human beings, so that we don't deal with them as they did in 1913, and have a proper balance and say my humanity should dictate that I should have the type of humanity that will not make me just evict these people off their farms. And that feeds into the land reform process that we are involved in. And all I'm doing is that let all of us as South Africans be filled with compassion for our fellow citizens, be filled with consideration and understanding about issues that impact on the livelihoods of the people of our country. And if we can do that, then we begin to find a better balance so that in the end we secure a better future for all of us. Because in the end, colleagues, it was the ANC that said, and it was the forebears of the ANC. And remember, ANC is formed in 1912. 1912, it starts calling for a united South Africa where all of us can live together. It took the ANC 82 years to finally have that accepted and realized, that we all should be living in a united country where there is democracy and where the color of your skin is not the determinant of the livelihood that you should have. And having taken all that time, the ANC has continued on that path, inspired by the Freedom Charter, which was drafted in 1955, that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And it was drafted at the time when there was noises about Swart Gevaar and so forth, where people were saying black people want to drive white people into the sea. And the ANC then came out and said, no, that is not true. We want everyone to know that South Africa belongs to all of us who live in it. We want a united country. We want a country where there will be recognition of all our rights together. But it went further and said we want to build a nation in our diversity, in the way that we differ in terms of skin color, language, culture, traditions, practices, you name it, regional spread and all that. We want to build one solid nation. And it took Nelson Mandela to take up this call and say he wants reconciliation as we build one country. Now that is what we are committed to. We are committed to being one nation, to look after each other, and to make sure that whatever we do will advance the prospects of all of us as a country. And this is what I'm also determined to do. I'm determined to achieve that we must become one nation. And once we accept that we will become one nation, we then begin to look after each other and look after the interests of all of us and recognize that there were bad things that were done in the past. And how do we seek to correct the imbalances that were committed in the past? And this, Jan Morgan, is what we should be positive about the future. The future for me can be a bright and will be a bright future for South Africa. We've had the last 25 years, and we are writing the report about the past 25 years. And as we write this report, we are saying South Africa has changed from what it used to be 25 years ago. There are many positive things that have been done, that have advanced the lives of many South Africans. We still have enormous challenges. There's still poverty in our country. There's still inequality in our country, and unemployment is rife. And today I'm pleased to be sitting with people here who are also concerned about the rate of unemployment. as we are concerned about the rate of unemployment and coming up with strategies on how to reduce unemployment and increase the level of people, the number of people who are employed, we should as well be concerned about the poverty in our country. We should as well be concerned about the inequality, so that we, unto whom so much has been given, all of us sitting here, this country has given us so much more than it has given many other South Africans. So unto us, from us is expected much more. That all of us should find ways of working together, of improving the prospects of our country. Now, along the 25 years, lots have been done and many mistakes have also been committed. Many mistakes were made, and we are going through those many mistakes that were made. And I often say that the glass is not half empty. The glass is half full. And our task is to say, how do we fill this glass? And from where I sit, I'm involved in a process now of saying, how do we correct the mistakes that were done in the past? And that's where I want you to join me, to correct those mistakes so that we can fill this glass. Some of the mistakes have led to lapses in government. Some of the mistakes have led to corruption finding its way into the life of the body politic of this country. And I'm saying that we are going to correct those. We are going to rid our country of all the mistakes that were made. And we are going to rid our country of the corruption that set in. And we are already taking steps to rid our country of this corruption. That we are going to do. Now, I'm not saying this to buy your faces, but wherever I go, as I go from door to door, go into people's homes, they always say, President Ramaphosa, we are very pleased that our lives have been changed. Our lives have changed, and we see great improvement. Our children are now at schools and all that and all that. They often say, we need jobs. Our children need jobs. We need better government performance. But we also want corruption to be obliterated from the face of South Africa. This is coming from ordinary people. And it is to this end that we are determined to rid our country of corruption. And that those who are found to have done things that have led to corruption must be accountable. They must be answerable. And they must account in a way where they should go where they belong. If you have done anything that's wrong, go where you belong, and that is jail. That's what we are saying. And unfortunately, this does not only apply to the state. It also applies in the private sector. We've had corruption also in the private sector. Big companies have been involved in it, and some private entities have also been involved in corrupting people who work in the state sector, state-owned enterprises. So it has become pervasive. It is all round. But our determination to clean up South Africa must be seen as being a bold one. And we are going to do it. The commissions that are now investigating everything and coming up with information that is shocking to us are going to enable us that what has been done in the past is never, 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 ever repeated in this beautiful land of ours, South Africa. That is what I can assure you. We will be attending to all that. So, Jan Morgan, that's why I say, you ask the question, what is it that we can be positive about South Africa? My dearest brother, fellow beef farmer, that's precisely what we can be positive about. The glass is half full. It's not half empty. And it requires all of us to work together to make sure that we fill this glass so that all the people of our country can have a sense that they also have a stake. Stake is what is important, because many people in our country have nothing. They feel that they have no stake. They feel that they have, no assets, no property, nothing. And some even feel that they have no future. Now I'm saying, us who've been given so much, in whom our country has invested so much, we can work together to consolidate that sense of hope amongst our people. Brian talks about the ship industry, the repairers and the builders, that is, it's labor intensive, and I agree with that, and that you are suffering under, Transnet, which raises its tariffs or costs for the ports, and also does not give security of tenure. I've heard you, and these are some of the things that we have to address. We have had a wonderful opportunity. I called about 25 economists. I said to 25 economists from all different sort of perspectives, and I said, come talk to me as economists. What is it that we can do to move our economy forward? Brian, you'll be pleased to know that some of them raised precisely this issue. They raised this issue, they said, the cost of doing business in South Africa is extremely high, and there's a great deal of uncertainty in a number of areas, and they were very particular in pointing some of these issues out. And these are issues that we are now going to pay attention to. We're going to ensure that the bottlenecks that are being caused not only by Transnet but others are such that we can address them. And of course, no one raised the issue of Eskom. Eskom is another major challenge that all of you face as farmers. It's a big problem. Now, I will not go into great detail about Eskom because it is a complex problem. It's multifaceted, but all I can assure you is that we are addressing it. We are addressing it, and we've now identified some of the key challenges and problems with Eskom, and we are also addressing the technical issues, the maintenance issues, and we're also beginning to look at the real reality that we decided to build 2 mega power stations, Medupi and Kusile, at great cost. And we went for the mega ones. Even as we were building them, some people around the world said, wow, you are brave, you South Africans. You are going for the big mega ones. And they said, we are no longer building such big power stations. We are building them on a modular basis, a little bit smaller, so that we don't put our energy generation at great risk in case one mega power station fails. Now, we've gone that path, and it still requires up to 36 billion rand to complete them. And in the course of doing so, the design has become also a challenge, which tells us that we should have gone for slightly smaller and more modular, but that is what it is. But at the same time, we're finding that we've got lots of power stations that on average are 37 years old. They are tired, they need to be put to their own history. So we need to deal with that. So it's a combination of many problems. But we now know what the key problems are, and we are addressing them. The maintenance challenge is a big one. The skills challenge is another big one. And the financial one is the biggest one, because there is no company that I know of in our country that owes 430 billion rand. And that is not collecting as much revenue as it is collecting. So we are addressing that and finding ways in which we can shore up the performance of Eskom. And we're working on it day in and day out. The minister sends me, that is Pravin Gordon, he sends me a chart every day about the performance of every power station. So we are busy with that, and as you know, government has decided that we are going to shore up Eskom from a financial point of view. That we are going to make sure that we address. Emile van der Merwe raises the question of the act that prevents giving security of tenure.
Well, of course, that is President Cyril Ramaphosa is out in Stellenbosch addressing an array of individuals, including Agri-Vescop, farm owners, business leaders, as well as academics, on really the future of the country, and perhaps even trying to instill that investor confidence in terms of how the country is going to be moving in terms of the trajectory of growth after the 8th of May.